So what is house hacking and how does it work? I'm glad you asked. Hey guys, I'm Sandy. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Central Florida area, also a licensed loan originator. Today I want to do a very great video on house hacking. This term has been flying around the industry for quite a while. People are very curious as how does it work and all that kind of stuff. So we're going to go in details with it right about now. Before I do that though, remember to like and share our line if you'd like. Remember to click on the little bell to be notified whenever we're doing a new video. Like and share our topics so someone else might benefit, and you might help us. You will help us to grow the channel, because that's what we want to do. Our goal is to get as much information out there as possible so people make an educated decision when it comes to buying or selling a home. That's our goal. Okay. So what is house hacking? House hacking is where you are renting a part of your home. So you live in your home and you have an in-law suite or extra room, or you have roommates or whatever it is. That's what house hacking really is. And what it does, it helps you to pay down your mortgage faster, helps you to build equity, and possibly help you to live rent-free if the other people if you're getting enough rental income and you're still living in the home. Now, this is really popular in New York City, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, all those areas. Also some parts of Florida as well, where people will buy a multi-family home. So they'll buy a 2-family or 3-family home. They live in one side, they rent out the others. Some people will even buy a 2, 3, or 4-family home, because up to a 4-family, it's still considered residential. And then they'll probably, if they have a basement, they'll fix and live in the basement and rent all the other units out. So there's different ways to do it. But the most popular way in our area is when you're renting a part of your home out. So if you don't want to buy a multifamily, you could still do it in your own home. I have clients that they do Airbnb in their own homes. They rent out different rooms to Airbnb. They live probably downstairs, rent out the rooms upstairs, or vice versa. So there's many different ways of doing this. However, it can become very lucrative because your goal is to try to live rent-free. And if you're living rent-free, guess what? That means that you're getting income to pay off the home you're in, and you can save your income to buy another home. So how do you house hack? Well, there's many different ways to do it. Number one, you could buy a big home, a little bit bigger than you really need, and rent out the additional spaces. You could rent them out to, just regular monthly renters, or you could do short-term rental as well. Make sure though, before you purchase a property, if you're thinking of doing short-term rental, make sure it's allowed, especially if you're in an HOA or wherever you are, make sure it's allowed, because this could live to slap you back in the face. So make sure it's zoned that way. So short-term rental obviously is going to give you the most income, because you have people renting for 2 days, 3 days a week, and they're going back and forth. If you're doing monthly, if you're renting the room out monthly, then you're going to make less money, because that rent is fixed and that's the rent you're going to get all the time. If you're the kind of person that needs certainty and need to know how much money you're actually going to be making each month, then I would say rent it out to a regular monthly renter. You could maybe rent out 2 or 3 different rooms. Now remember, you got to take precautions and do all the stuff you need to do to secure your items, and you're going to have to vet the people who are coming in. It sounds a little bit scary, but it's not as scary as going to open a new brand new storefront, right? Like going into a plaza and renting out a space and starting a new business and don't know what's going to happen. So this, if you are trying to do investment, is a little safer way to do it, and it's less expensive. If you're thinking of doing short-term rentals, so if you're home, like putting a few other rooms on Airbnb, make sure the guests know exactly what areas are theirs and what areas are not theirs. A lot of people make a lot of money by renting out rooms in their home to Airbnb clients. But let's say you didn't have a home. You could rent a home or rent an apartment or whatever you want to rent. Make sure though that you get, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't believe I don't have coffee yet, right? Make sure you get permission from the landlord that you're allowed to sublease. Once you get permission from the landlord that you are allowed to sublease, then you're able to rent the rooms out either to a regular monthly renter or a short-term renter. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is adding an ADU. What is an ADU? An ADU is an additional dwelling unit. You could build an additional room on your house. You could put an RV and rent the RV out on your property based upon where your property is located. You could add an in-law suite and rent that out, just add it there. So there's many, this is very popular in Atlanta, guys. So if you want to find out how to do an ADU, check out Atlanta. They're doing that a lot there because the city is getting so crowded. Also in San Francisco as well. But if you live in the country area, and you're in a big lot, you might even rent out a space for somebody else to park their RV on your property. So there's many different ways of doing it. In some areas, you could convert your garage into a living area and rent that out. So there's many, many different ways of doing this. But again, remember, it has to be zoned that way, and make sure you could do this legally. Don't do this and then undercover and then get caught. So there's many different ways. Another thing is you could buy a multifamily property. So if you're looking to buy a home, you could buy a multifamily home instead of a single family home. You could do a 2-family, a duplex, a triplex, or a 4-family. A 4-family is still residential, and you could do this as well. Now we are working with a builder, and this particular builder, if you want to go buy your land, or they'll also provide the land, they will build you a 2-family, a 3-family, or a 4-family, or they'll build you a single family home with an additional in-law suite. So if they build a single family home with an additional in-law suite, you could use the in-law suite, you could rent it as an Airbnb, short-term rental, or as a regular monthly renter. Again, you just got to make sure. If it's not an HOA, you could do whatever you want. If it's in a HOA though, you have to make sure that you go to the HOA and find out what's allowed and what's not allowed before you do this. But what about the idea of buying a piece of land and then getting a builder, which we work with, to build you a single family home with a in-law suite, a 2-family home, a 3-family home, or a 4-family home based upon what the land is zoned for. But you could most definitely do this, and then you could rent out all those areas, all those different points. The good thing about this is if you're living in the property and you're going to buy it, you could buy it as owner occupied. Make sure you're living in the property. I'm not telling you to pretend you're living there and don't live there. Make sure you're living in the property. But if you're buying something for you to live in, you're going to get owner financing, which means you don't have to come up with 20 to 25% to buy the home. You could go as little as 3.5% FHA. You could do a VA loan with no money down, or you could do a USDA loan with no money down if you qualify. So this is the cheapest way to get into house hacking if you're going to purchase. If you're going to purchase, it's going to be owner occupied and you're allowed to rent some of the space out, you could still do owner financing, which means, as I said, 3.5% down or no money down based upon the financing that you qualify for, maybe 5% down on the conventional based upon what lender you're using. But you wouldn't have to come up with 20 or 25% as you need to do on an investment property. You could also rent a home, rent an apartment. Maybe you rent a 3-bedroom apartment. You only need one of the room for yourself. You could rent the other 2 bedrooms out. However, make sure you get permission from the landlord that you're able to sublease. Subleasing is a big deal. A lot of landlords don't allow it, but some will. So if you tell the landlord, so maybe it's an absentee landlord and they're not really nearby, you tell them, hey, I'll take care of the property for you. I'll do all this stuff for you. I'll even pay up to, let's say, $200 or $300 in repairs if anything breaks down. So if Mr. Landlord, if anything breaks down, I will cover up to maybe up to $500 of repairs. If anything breaks down, anything over that, we'll call you, we'll take care of the home. We just need for you to allow us to sublease. So there are many different creative ways of getting a landlord to agree to subleasing. If you're able to do that, then you could house act, because then you could rent the 3-bedroom home or apartment or whatever it is, condo, whatever it is. Rent out 2 other rooms, you keep 1 room. Maybe those 2 rooms that you rent out gives you enough money to pay the rent, so you don't have to pay the rent. Then you could save the rent to buy your own property. If you already have a home, maybe you have a home and you're having problems paying the mortgage, and maybe you lost your job, whatever it is, consider renting out some of the rooms that you have in your home. That will help you pay your rent. I know it's not the ideal situation, guys, but guess what? Everybody who got rich or got to a point where they were self-sufficient cash-wise always had to make sacrifices. This sacrifice is not that big as some bigger sacrifices I know that people make, but this is a great starting point if you're looking to house hack, or if you're looking for a way to start investing in real estate or renting out stuff or getting additional income. Remember, you're living there, so you set the rules. You set the rules of what they're able to use, what they're not able to use. One of my clients that does Airbnb in her home, what she does is she has a little mini fridge and a microwave. She have her electrician run 220 in each room. So she has a little microwave, a little refrigerator, so that the room becomes like a hotel room, so to speak. And we know that there's so many big hotels. So that's telling us, if all these hotels are all over the place, it's telling us that hotels is a lucrative business. So you could make your home or your apartment into a hotel by renting out the rooms, or you could get a co-worker from work who wants to be a roommate. Roommating is also a part of house hacking. You get a roommate, you and the roommate split bills and split everything else. You're also house hacking because the roommate is paying you. So these are some great ways. I love this topic. So if you have any interest in this at all, give us a call, send us a text. Our number should be somewhere up here, somewhere below, and get a free consultation so we can get you started on this. But this is a great way. House hacking is a great way to start getting real estate wealth at a very small point. Also, you might be an empty nester. Kids have moved out. The house is too big for you. This may be another way of doing this if you're up to it. But there's so many different ways to house hack. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.